long as we've had mass wars, we've had PTSD. However, it is much more severe today for a large number of reasons. One thing is that technological warfare, those of you who've been know best, technological warfare in the modern era is so dangerous, so deadly, moves at such high speeds that war is no longer an individual rite of passage testing the skills of that individual warrior, the way it was in traditional societies, but rather it seems everybody is helpless under modern technological fire, and it's up to chance who lives and who dies, rather than a proving ground for our manhood as it was considered for millennia. So technological warfare makes PTSD much worse. Guerrilla warfare, like we've had in Vietnam, like we have today, urban guerrilla warfare, where you can't tell, it's not two uniformed armies fighting against each other, but you don't know who you're fighting and whether the person you're facing is a civilian or an insurgent or a guerrilla fighter. You don't know if you should pull the trigger or not. That creates psychological havoc for anyone, and that increases the incidence of PTSD. The degree of destruction because of technological warfare causes significant increase. Right now in Iraq, 90% of the casualties are civilians. The civilian casualty rate has been going up in every war since the American Civil War, and civilians and the infrastructure and the environment have been more and more commonly considered not just inevitable tragic targets, as we all, I expect, feel, but also justifiable targets. It's okay to kill X numbers of civilians or destroy so much of the infrastructure in order to accomplish our military tasks. This is not, I'm not trying to be political and argue right or wrong, good or bad about this. I'm trying to point out some of the inevitable dimensions of modern warfare that severely increase the incidence of post-traumatic stress disorder. Women in combat. We have women in combat in large numbers today, as well as an astronomical rate of military sexual trauma against women, service people, and also against males in the service. And so combining the experience of combat with other forms of trauma that can happen in the military or under conditions of duress are very dangerous and psychologically and spiritually deadly as well. We also have never had women in combat in almost not at all, let alone in the significant numbers we have today. And we don't yet know, except anecdotally, case by case, as women are coming back from the combat zone and expressing their feelings and their degree of well-being about it, how severely combat is affecting women. But some women combatants are expressing extreme degrees of PTSD and internal suffering because they were created as givers of life, and now they've also experienced themselves as destroyers of life. And this may affect women's psyches more severely than it does men. We're still learning about this. It's a problem we have to deal with. We also have the fact that with our modern weaponry, with its incredible speed and destructive power, war in the modern era with modern weaponry may have surpassed the human capacity to endure without breakdown. Some military psychiatric research shows that the only people who come out of a modern combat experience completely unchanged, the same as they went in, are psychopathic or sociopathic personalities. I'm not saying everybody goes crazy, so please don't take it that way, especially our vets. What I am saying is that there's change, there's transformation, there's confusion and disorder as a result. But people who look for the instinctual release and are amoral, don't have consciences, seem to do well and come out of combat the same way they went in. They also often do well with military discipline that tells them when to stay disciplined and keep your instincts in check, and when to release them. Everybody else will change. Everybody else will change. And it seems like we truly have surpassed the human capacity to endure this much threat and stress in a sustained way without some significant degree of confusion and breakdown. And one more reason I'll mention for a high incidence of PTSD today is what I call moral trauma. Everyone has to look into their own hearts and souls after service, or even if you haven't served, about how you feel about what our country is doing. And those of us who are psychotherapists and counselors are trained to not touch the moral questions. We're supposed to leave them alone and tell our patients and our clients, well, talk to your priest or rabbi or imam about that one. That's a moral or a spiritual issue, and we certainly don't make moral judgments, and we really need to honor the morality of our patients. However, anybody who has been to war also may have significant moral questions about what you did, why you did it, whether you believed in it during that time, whether you believe in it afterwards, whether as you look back in retrospect, the war was right or one's own actions were right. What if I had to do things that I didn't want to do or didn't believe in doing? One Iraq veteran said, my definition of PTSD is the condition that results when your head tells you to do something that your heart knows is wrong. So the split between mind and heart. Again, everybody won't feel this way, but many people will. And so moral trauma is also in the core of PTSD. It is a moral wound. And Socrates and other ancient teachers said that the conscience, the seat of our morality, is the soul. The soul is that which tells right from wrong and good from evil. And if we betray our own souls, even if we have to stay alive, we're going to do damage to ourselves. And we have to do a lot of recovery